All right, so now we're doing congruence with triangles again, but we're doing a specific type of triangle. And of course, that is a right triangle. What do we know? Everybody knows this. What do we know about a right triangle? 90 degrees, okay? So I just happen to have a right triangle here. All right, and I don't know, let's just make it look about like that. Oops, there we go. And I'm going to put two of them next to each other. Go ahead. All right, since we do have a little bit of a limited time here, I'm going to show you some right triangle congruency statements, all right? I'm not going to go through the whole congruent thing. Is we know if it's in between the sides in between the two angles, it's the included side and all that kind of stuff, all right? So I said that these are right triangles, but now, officially, they're right triangles. Put the little box in there, okay? The first one, you could kind of not even, you don't even really even need this one. There's a couple of these right triangle congruence things that you don't really need, but I'm going to show them to you anyway. All right, so what do we call this side right here that's opposite the right angle? It has a special name. No, it starts with an H. Say it. The hypotenuse, okay? We've talked about that before. Okay, so this side right here opposite the right angle, we call the hypotenuse. What are the other two sides called? We give them a special name. We'll call them the what of the right triangle? Starts with an L. The legs. Okay, so both of these are legs. This is the hypotenuse. You need to know that to be able to understand these theorems, okay? Which you should have known already. So this is the hypotenuse. These are the legs. So let's do this in red so it stands out a little bit. What's the first one we want to do? We want to do this one. So what if I was told that you have two right triangles and this leg are equal to each other? Is that enough to say that they're congruent? No, just one angle on one side? No, it's not. But if I told you this was equal to this, now we actually could have already told you why these triangles are congruent. Why would these triangles be congruent right now? Yeah, but give me a congruent statement. Side, angle, side. That's right. Okay, side, angle, side. And this has side, angle, side. So I could say that they're congruent because of side, angle, side, but the right triangle congruence, they use one that's a little bit shorter. They say if you have two right triangles, they are congruent because of leg, leg, and they call it a theorem. This would be a theorem. Leg, leg, that's two L's right there. Leg, leg, congruence. Okay, there's some more, all right? Everybody with me on that? All right, we don't really use that often because we don't really need to, because if I was given this information, I could automatically go back to what I learned earlier and just call it side, angle, side, couldn't I? All right, but if you wanted to call it leg, leg, but remember, these things right here only deal with right triangles, okay? I'll tell you what, just due to time, let's just get rid of these. Everybody got that written down, though, the leg, leg one? Okay. All right, let's do another one. And here's another one that's kind of the same deal, all right? What if they give you that this angle is equal to this angle and that this was equal to this? Again, we've learned something already. We've learned something earlier that we could already say that these triangles are congruent without knowing anything about the right triangle congruency stuff. Okay, why are these two triangles congruent? Angle, angle, side. We did angle, angle, side, right? Yep. So you could just say angle, angle, side. Or they call it, now, again, what is this specific side right here and this specific side? It's opposite the right. So it's the hypotenuse. So we call this hypotenuse angle. Congruency theorem, okay? But again, if you wanted to say that they're congruent because of angle, angle, side, you could do that as well, all right? So it seems like the first two are kind of a waste of time. In fact, the last book that I taught geometry out of, they never had these. They only had, I think, one or two right triangle congruency theorems. And that's the reason, because I could have called that angle, angle, side, and the other one side, angle, side. So I didn't really need it, okay? But, and here's another one. Here's another one that we don't really need. But there is one that we absolutely need, okay? We couldn't prove it before today. So let's do that. So what if I gave you that this angle was equal to this angle and this side was equal to this side? okay? So we already know from, a lesson or two ago why these two triangles are congruent. Why could I say that these triangles are congruent right now? Angle, side, angle. That's right. There's an angle, there's a side, included side, right? And there's another angle because they're both 90 degrees. They're both equal to each other, obviously. Okay, so angle, side, angle. So we could call it angle, side, angle, but they call it leg angle congruency theorem. Okay, the leg, it looks like an angle sign, but that's an L. My L's are terrible. Okay, so that's leg angle. You could learn it that way. But do we really need it? No, because I could have said that they're congruent because of angle, side, angle, right? Yeah. It's a little shorter, but really, you didn't really need it. But on this one, let me get rid of this, and let's get rid of this. On this one, you do need this right triangle stuff, okay? And this would be, let's see. Yep, it's the last one in the book. It's on page 187. And what if they give you, get my pen right here. What if they give you this? Now, remember, I kind of made a mistake, and I put angle, side, side on there. And I'm like, oh, I better erase that because, it's a word we're not supposed to say, all right? But you remember we kind of laughed about it, agreed? But I said, we don't say there's no angle, side, side because it makes a word we're not supposed to say, all right? But it just doesn't exist unless you have right triangles. If you have right triangles, there actually is an angle, side, side theorem. But it's not just any old side. Thank you. It's not just any old side. It's a leg and a what? And a hypotenuse. Okay? So we call this oh, there goes my pen again. Keep clicking. I wish they wouldn't put these buttons on this pen. That's what happens. I keep pushing these buttons. Hypotenuse leg theorem or congruency theorem. I'll just shorthand it and put THM for theorem. Okay? So this is really the only one in this whole lesson that you really need to know because you could always fall back to the other ones. You could fall back to angle, angle, side, angle, side, angle, side, angle, side, right? You could always use those when you have right triangles. But here's one that you could not fall back on, all right? This is only true on right triangles. If I have one leg of one equal to the corresponding leg of the other and a hypotenuse equal to the hypotenuse, then these triangles are congruent to each other. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. So really, that's the only thing new. You got two right triangles. You know the hypotenuse are equal. You know one of the legs are equal to the other leg. And now we can say that they're congruent to each other. Everybody good? Now, if they're congruent to each other, got like a minute left, so watch this. If I call this ABC, DEF, I'll just make it super easy here. Don't pack up. We're not ready. Watch. If I call this ABC is congruent to DEF, what could you tell me? Now, they don't tell you right off the bat, but what could you tell me about angle A and angle D? If they're congruent to each other, they've got to be what? They got to be equal because they're corresponding parts, correct? What about angle B? What could I say about angle B? That's got to equal angle E. What else could I say about this? I could say that AC is congruent to what? DF. Everybody see that? Okay. Now that's something, again, when we do proofs, that's super important. Maybe we'll talk about it later. But if you know the triangle is congruent just by hypotenuse and leg, then you know all that other stuff has got to be equal to each other as well. All right? And they could very well ask you that kind of thing. All right? Okie doke. What was the homework? I'll write it down here. Let's see. Here's my paper. 1 to 14? Okay. So it's section 4-6. And it's pages 188, 189. And it's 1 to 14. And that is your homework. I don't think the bells are ringing right today because the time changed. They probably haven't changed the bell schedule, so you can go. Yeah, this weekend there was time change.
Yeah, we